Hi, this is a tutorial on how to integrate tidal cycles and Super Collider into Touch Designer. This is a little demonstration of what you could do with it potentially. So the first thing you have to do is download tidal cycles. They have a website that very clearly explains how to do that, and there's a very large community of questions and answers that could help you if you're facing any issues. You also have to download Atom, which is a text editor. VS Code doesn't work as well. This figure is kind of how the Tidal Cycles library works with SuperDirt if you're interested. SuperDirt and Super Collider. It kind of works with Quarks and then a listening port. But anyways, so the first thing we're going to do is open Super Collider and open the post window because that's going to help us. And then I'm going to make a folder on my desktop and so I can store all my files together because it might get a little messy if you don't. I just called mine Live Coding Touch Designer. And then I made a file on Super Collider called a Super Collider. You can call it whatever you want. I wasn't really sure what I should call it. So once you have it saved, you can just start it. You activate it by Shift Enter, and that's how it kind of runs the code. And then when you look on the post window, it will tell you what port you're listening on. That's important for when we integrate it into Touch Designer. That's mine. And then I'm also gonna make a file on Atom and save it however I want to save it. Make sure to call it something .tidal. And then I'm just gonna write a simple code of bass drum, snare drum, if my abbreviations are correct, and then I'm going to activate that again with Shift Enter, and then you should start hearing it at this point. And then to pause it, you just write hush and activate that. If it's not working at this point, I would suggest going through the Tidal Cycles community and going through that. I was just kind of showing different types of codes that you can write. You can have a hush for all of your lines of code, or you can have like a specific D1 or D2 or D3. These are just some things I was experimenting with. Okay, then I'm going to open Touch Designer, and while that's happening, I'm going to write some code on Super Collider to show you how to send the OSC to Touch Designer. So the first thing is we're going to define the Touch Designer port. You can call this whatever you want. This is the code to do it, and you're going to look for your local host address and put that in. I'm just copying and pasting, but you're going to have to change the port to a third. So in this case, it's boosting on 10, it's listening on 20, and I'm going to put in 30 because you can't use the same port for more than one software, otherwise it doesn't work. And then we're going to test it to make sure it works. And the more tests you do, the better, because it does get a little finicky. I just added the number 40, and this is the Touch Designer. I put a chop OSC in and added the port on the network port and the local address to match my local host. And then you should go back to Super Collider and activate the setting of the address. It should show up in your post window, and then also set the test, and it should show up on your Touch Designer. Okay, so now we're going to write a function to see the values that Tidal Cycle sends to Super Collider. And you just do this by making a function of true and false. And when we activate the sound, when you go back and activate the function, you'll see all the OSC messages that are being sent from Tidal Cycles. So these are important to look through. Depending on your code in Tidal Cycles, the index of the value that you want to control in Touch Designer is important when you're kind of building in Touch Designer. But this is the general function that worked for me. I was using the index of 6 just as a test right now, and this is the code that I figured out. I did do the backslash instead of the forward slash, so fix that. So the two things you should be looking for once this is working is the real-time effect in Touch Designer itself, and I was refreshing it to see it alone, and then also all the values in the post window. And don't forget to create a function free so that you could stop the code from running all the time. Okay, now so we want to test the code from while it's working on Tidal Cycles. This is the kind of code I wrote. It really depends on what you want to affect. I put note and sound and delay And these are the things that are going to show up in my OSC function. So I'm going to run it for a little bit and then quickly stop it because it gets a lot. And then I'm going to look at the messages I got and specifically look through the dirt play because that's the one I want to use. I'm actually going to pause this for a second because it's overwhelming. So yeah, I'm looking at the dirt play and we're going to see every single index in that line of code and see what we want to affect in Touch Designer. So I'm kind of just mentally highlighting what I want. I know for sure that it's only in the dirt play, so we're going to create an if statement so that the message to Touch Designer is only being sent when it's on dirt play, not when it's on another point of the cycle. So if message of the index 1 is 0 is equal to dirt play, and then everything else falls into that. And then I made different values for each of the ones that I wanted to control, and then just rename them accordingly. And then I'll go back to Tidal cycles and activate the line of code that I want, and then Super Collider activate the function, and we should be getting values in both Super Collider post window as well as the OSC function in the OSC in Touch Designer. So yeah, this is just the fun part where you kind of just inspect the values that you're getting, and then you can mess around with what kind of values you're putting into Tidal cycles. Here I was changing a few things to see what kind of notes I'd get different. I changed the notes. I think I changed the delay and other things, and then I was listening out for any changes and watching the note changes in Touch Designer as well. So then you can kind of just have fun with it and see what values you want to use. Like I realized I didn't want to use delay anymore. I wanted to use the feedback instead. So I just changed the values and the index to that, and then saw the changes in Touch Designer immediately. And then you can kind of just go crazy with it. I made 4 ports, 4 select chops, just so I could pick each value that I wanted, and then you can move that into range and input that into any visuals you want. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed my video. Thank you so much.